Hello, everyone, and welcome to your horoscope for the week of March the 25th till 31st, 2024. This is going to be quite a memorable week from so very many perspectives, but the highlight of this astrological show, which also begins the week, so it is at the very beginning of the week on Monday, we have the penumbral lunar eclipse in the sign of Libra. This will really open a very powerful, very relevant, and life changing karmic gateway. This will officially mark that we are in the period between the two eclipses. So, this is where things change very rapidly. And we also have the possibility to draw very important, life altering conclusions from the past, from everything that basically was set up in our lives until this present moment. So, this is where a very powerful contemplative period begins because ultimately these eclipses do not just rearrange our lives internally, first of all, of course, but it can also come externally and collectively. Without a doubt, we are already in full swing in this very strong karmic period. But this eclipse period also changes our very basically attitude towards the future, towards life, and towards those elements which are strongly emphasized by the astrological energy, the specifics, where the eclipse takes place, what happens in the sky at the time of the eclipse, etc., etc. But all of this needs a very strong introspection as well for us to draw very important conclusions, and these conclusions to last perhaps until the very end of this incarnation, because we are traversing a very transformative period for humankind, even outside of the eclipses. Pluto in the sign of Aquarius, reigniting that old energy, actually not the old energy, but the future Aquarius, But with the old, I wanted to refer to 21st of December 2020, when Jupiter and Saturn conjuncted met at this part of the, not at this degree, because Pluto already went over the 0 degree of Aquarius where they met Jupiter and Saturn in December, but Pluto is still extremely close to that 0 degrees, and Pluto will retrograde back to that 0 degree when it starts its retrograde. So it is where that great conjunction is still on, very much so. And the most elemental or primordial effect of the great conjunction is a new worldview which changes everything. So this is where that worldview, the new worldview, both collectively, humanity as a collective, and both individually, us, the basic components of what humanity even means. This is where we're integrating that new worldview, but in a very practical way. How that plays out, well, that has so very many sides to it. It is infinitely complex. However, all of the complexity is based on principle and ultimately value system. So basically everything has its very own unique and specific importance in this larger um, setup. So let's get straight into the horoscope, where, as I said at the very beginning of the week, we have that very potent penumbral lunar eclipse in the sign of Libra. So it is a full moon. If you want to check out more predictive and collective specifics of this energy, I have a specially dedicated video. But in this horoscope, I am going to be speaking much more about what the eclipse is actually telling us. Because every single eclipse, regardless of the specifics, is where the divine reflects something back at us. Or let's say at a solar eclipse, a new moon basically, the divine hints to us what we need to co create, or sometimes create, or enable the creation of something. But it is still a period of reflection, a communication, so to speak. So that is the part which I want to highlight. What this eclipse actually says to us, and what it says to us specifically, and down to the individual. We will need to look at our lives, what happens next week, but also at the very beginning of April as well. So this penumbral lunar eclipse isn't just about next week, it is about the next month, basically, which is very powerfully karmically charged for endings, completions, revelations, because an eclipse can show us something, especially a lunar eclipse, which was there perhaps all along, but we just couldn't see it because we were not looking in the right direction, or the luminary factor. It was always under shadow, hidden. And now this eclipse, penumbral, it resets even the shadow. So for it illuminates that which lurks there in the invisible, in the specifics, of course, of principles, Libra, justice, in any expression of it, both, more philosophically or in feeling what justice feels like, but also practically secular justice in courts of justice and internationally speaking as well. But the international part is already playing out, so all we need to do is just look at what's happening from a legal perspective. But of course, perhaps the biggest topic is partnerships. Any kind of partnerships, romantic partnerships, and the very core of that, how is it that we form partnerships? The modus operandi that we built up until this present moment based on life experience. And life experience itself, of course, is based on certain patterns which are, let's just say, genetic. We just came into this world with them. Other patterns are learned, picked up, inherited from basically anyone: family, school, teachers, friends, our place in society, work, etc., etc. So it is really, really pinpointing for us to look at those patterns, because those patterns matter, and those patterns themselves are built on values, value and value system, and guiding principles. And when I say principles, it's not even about the big spiritual perspective. It is simply our core guiding principles in anything. Our sense of morality, our sense of justice, our sense of fairness, our sense of empathy, how we consider the other, Libra, us and the other. So this is where let me word this in this way: whatever we learn from the self, because ultimately, even if this is Libra, the sun illuminates this full moon from Aries, the self. So even though, a lot of whatever plays out is going to be very directed to the self, well, that also speaks about others. You know what I mean? Libra, the scales of justice. The self will be weighed through the lens of another, let's say, the others, because that is the, how should I say, the most logical, because Libra is ultimately an air sign. I know it is ruled by Venus, So it is also the logic of the heart and certain things that don't make rational sense, but there is also quite a lot of rationality in it as well, because it's an inanimate even air sign. So you can imagine certain parts of Libra have very powerful logical rational build. So but it's dual, so both sides of this are going to be highlighted. So it is definitely going to be a very important spotlight shown on relationships, regardless of which element of them is under, as I said, the karmic microscope. And this will say a lot of things about us. Oh, it is South Node eclipse after all. So this is where the South Node is about everything we need to release, everything we have in excess in our lives, and we need to balance out. So release or use, alchemize some of the excessive, whatever it is, energy or information or whatever. And at the same time, full moon, this is very powerful for closures, terminations, and for us to view certain relationship or contracts, one-on-one alliance. It can be romantic or in any other, even where the other is not necessarily a person, but an institution, an organization, a job contract, for example. So when I say alliance, it can be any type of alliance. And of course, apply this to where this 5 degree of Libra falls in your chart personally, that area of life, but it's still alliance or you and the other um, type of energy, if this makes sense. So, where I want to go with this is that this eclipse basically is very likely to cause strong change terminations, or where we see an information or something that exists in our lives, a relationship, a contract, with totally different eyes than we have done until this present moment, and we reach a certain clarity, and due to that clarity the relationship changes, it is transformed. So, of course, it doesn't need to necessarily be an ending as such. It can be simply a change where one state ends, but it continues through another state. And why this? Well, one of the most major aspects that this full moon, yes, holds is a trine with Pluto. So Pluto is the transformation. Pluto is where one state ends, the other one begins. And Pluto is also strong truth energy. Things that we find it very hard to look at, but this eclipse calls us to look at exactly those in a very stark, realistic, down to earth, or even if, let's say, if this is like a spiritual energy, 12th house, why not for some people, or deeply psychological energy, there cannot be very strong objectivity there. Hence, what is the truth? Yet what feels right to you, or what the divine intended for you, then that is the truth. So every type of eclipse also sets us back on the right path, so to speak, in that area of life where it takes place. So it will be quite important where this falls in your chart. But collectively speaking, as I said, all we need to do is look at what's happening in the world. Libra justice, that is on fire now internationally. Or then Libra, very strong contracts. And internationally, it's not just the commercial stuff that is ongoing and present, but it is also the big historical, history changing conventions that are under the microscope now. That which is old and outdated needs to, Pluto in Aquarius, be updated, hence transform, or simply be terminated for something better to take its place. Or even if nothing can take its place, the fact that it's terminated, it is a truth that already happened psychologically or in spirit or in principle. And also, the ruling planet of this eclipse is Venus. So at the moment of the eclipse, Venus, you can see her here, she's very close to Saturn. It is still a conjunction. So the reality factor, the truth factor, and also something that I haven't mentioned in my eclipse special video is that the Sabian symbol of this lunar eclipse at 5 degree of Libra is ideals of a man abundantly crystallizing. Now, this is so symbolic that it doesn't even need all that much interpretation. Saturn in Pisces, it is exactly the crystallization. You know what? It is almost like when in certain parts of the world, they produce sea salt by simply evaporating seawater. That's a crystallization. That is exactly what Saturn is doing. And in Pisces, it's very much also, besides all else, about ideals, principles, the thought of it, of whatever it is, whatever the theme is, but the ideals. So putting this into the eclipse context, well, either certain, as I said, guiding principles, behavioral patterns, inner value system that made us form relationships one way or another, that was our modus operandi, uh, that which was crystallized in our, because that is crystallized, because it's Saturnian, it's a custom, it is something that we are likely to repeat over and over again. Well, it is exactly those that need to terminate or transform radically for the future, Pluto in Aquarius. So this is definitely one way how we can understand this energy. If there are like, this is, why should I sugarcoat it? This is very much divorce energy, or our relationship has to change forever, whatever that means. But whatever happens, because it, of course, it's unpleasant, an eclipse is, and this is also when the moon is relatively close to the south node, the moon at 5 degree, south node at 15 degrees. So it's also via combusta, the very, very gateway of via combusta, the path of fire. 15 degrees of from Libra to 15 degrees of Scorpio, that is like a path of fire, because negotiations, argument, relationships, values, principles change under those degrees, and that change is like fire. You know what I mean? Like walking a trail of cinders, because any change of relationship is not an easy energy. So in some people's lives, it comes through as a crisis, but this may not be like where the ending, the divorce, let's say, has to take place right now. If it took place a few months ago, it's already this energy. But this is where you draw conclusions. This is where the old crystals, the crystallization, sends the Sabian symbol, shatter or are dissolved, if you will. Saturn and the voters of Pisces, they dissolve it, just like a salt crystal or many crystals dissolve in water. And Venus is in the Venus is in the area. Venus is close to Saturn. So, you know, and she is the ruler of this eclipse. So it's like a purifying factor. But it's also a positive energy, because why? what does a dissolving mean? It can lead to forgiveness, to acceptance, to a much more realistic value system, Saturn conjunct Venus. It can lead to profound understanding with the heart or even the spirit, Venus and Pisces, of certain events in the past. This removes grudge. This removes fear. This can be so positive if we take it in a very spiritually mature way. Look at the situation from heaven's eyes, from the perspective of the divine parent. Why would it enable an uncomfortable energy to play out in this way? Well, the answer will always lie deep within your soul. What is not authentic in your life that is ending? And not authentic doesn't mean that you're lying to yourself, or others are lying to you. You outgrown your, let's say, like a crab outgrows its carapace. You just outgrown it. You don't know that you're outgrowing it when you're outgrowing it. You're not aware of this. There will come a moment of awareness. Well, let's say when you feel that my shell or something in my life is no longer comfortable. Why? And you see why. That's when you are pushed back into authenticity by karma. So this is exactly how we need to understand this eclipse. That is what the divine is telling us. Whatever is highlighted under termination of powerful transformation, contract, relationship, feeling, principle, faith, even, why not, or something in justice, court of justice. Well, what is not authentic in your life and why? Finding the answers to this, well, it activates the blessing of the eclipse, trine Pluto. It gives you freedom, Aquarius. It gives you power. It gives you control. You're aware. And also, not just at the time of this eclipse, but all through the week, all through the month, Jupiter is getting closer and closer and closer to Uranus. There's only like approximately 5 degrees between them. So this is already a conjunction we can feel. Okay, physically, earth events, and it shakes up financially everything, Taurus financial, and in value. What do we support? What do we love? Like, what's happening in the world collectively is so relevant. Like, Jupiter, justice, right? Shakes up Taurus, that which is usually permanent, long lasting. Boycott certain big brands. Boycott is for justice, Jupiter. Let's take justice into our own hands. And the rebellious nature of this and the ultimately financially destructive nature of this is Uranus. That is one example. But this is also happening within our souls, non politically, just we with our own situation and our us and us, we sitting down with ourselves. What values are we boycotting? You know what I mean? Within ourselves. When is it when a certain behavior of ours does not correlate with our principles and morals? Like, let me give you an example. Taurus, the five senses. You are hell bent to be living like the a very balanced lifestyle because you understood the necessity spiritually, nutritionally, scientifically, in any way, shape, and form. You understood very well why it is very important to have a healthy and balanced life and lifestyle and the body and stuff like that. Those are the principles. And you're trying your maximum hardest and succeeding. But maybe one of your five senses is torturing you, like craving. And every time it's like a battle. You are succeeding your principles, but the craving is making your life hell. That kind of tells you that you need to balance the two out. This is just an example of this energy. because going for principles in a Saturnian way, as in no stopping you, is admirable. It's a sacrifice. Saturn rewards. It has to. It has no choice. But this is where it's also telling you, but don't be so radical. See what works for you and see where and why satisfying from time to time your craving is also important, even if it sabotages the principle. But why do you crave something? And then you go deep into a self psychoanalysis and you see where the craving comes from. And you can imagine that taking it so seriously and actually going deep within yourself heals you. Healing Chiron very close to the North Node. Actually, Chiron sandwiched between North Node and Mercury. We understand the healing, but also because we understand how to heal and how the healing takes place because we understand the wound, the nature of the wound. So, combined with the eclipse energy, combined with the upcoming eclipse on the 8th of April, total solar eclipse in Aries, so close to Chiron, um, there's going to be a powerful healing opportunity in all the chaos and in all the discomfort that may go also hand in hand with this period, with this extended period, regardless of what happens or how bad it seems or how, let's say, a heartbreak and disillusioning it is. There's also a massive opportunity for rebalancing, healing, and embracing authenticity, especially within our deepest values. And you can imagine how our value system is polluted by education, everything, how we grew up. Unless anyone from our listeners, my listeners, was a hermit who could grow up in within nature or with a very strong moral backbone and kept pure, and this doesn't mean religious. No, 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 just strong moral. But chances are no one had this opportunity. So that means all of our value systems are very much polluted by the collective idealisms that we were born in. Some people, some souls like myself, well, we lived through more than one collective ideology, like political system, for example. I lived through both communism and this so-called democracy and whatever the hell it is right now, because no one knows what it is, because it's none of what it used to be. But that basically means that your value system also reflects that. Regardless of how strong we want to keep it pure, we can't by living in society. And that's okay. That is absolutely okay because it is part of our history, part of our so called training, Earth School. Why not? It cannot be all white and pure and gold. The dirt, many times, is equally as important. But then there comes such powerful as karmic slash astrological moments when we have this opportunity to wash our beings out in principle and in value in a Venusian way. Because Venus is also basically the planet which will influence greatly the Jupiter Uranus conjunction on the 20th of April when it gets exact, but we're already feeling it. So, and finally, last but not least, uh, another specific of this eclipse that I haven't mentioned is that it is not precisely conjunct, but it is very near a fixed star named Zania. I'm not sure how to pronounce it. Zaniah, um, which is a very fortunate fixed star. Diplomacy, order. order in the sense of greater harmony, success in diplomatic matters. So this can bring peace potentially. But before peace, there might be one big flare up of the old conflict. But the fixed star is very fortunate, especially in legal, diplomatic, and also personal matters. So, as I said, whatever crisis this eclipse, or maybe it's not a real crisis, it's just a contemplation episode, a deep contemplation episode of your life, for example. Or it isn't even in your life personally, it's in the life of people near you, important. Let me give an example. Your work is heavily disrupted, heavily, because a key employee or your boss or whatever is going through a bad divorce. You can imagine that one way or another, either you will learn from that. What does it say about your patterns as well? Or you will become a Chiron, a supporter for your boss, but not within work, but morally, psychologically, as a human to human, one or the other. So it's not even personally in your life, but it still is. And the lessons are still there as if you would be going through it personally. Just an example. So, regardless of how it affects us, there's still a blessing, transformation, and something positive, greater peace involved. So, let us, how should I say, let us embrace and integrate this energy. Speaking about the ruler, Venus, she holds a sextile with Jupiter at the time of the eclipse. Now, even though the eclipse, as in the full moon, the moon especially holds a couple of minor, like sesquiquadrate and half square, which is very uncomfortable, which is not a very easy energy. Still, the overall tone is aimed for positivity, greater, because the lower benefic Venus sextiling the greater benefic Jupiter. If we integrate whatever this eclipse reflects to us, it turns to something positive. Jupiter in Taurus, long-term sense of justice, equilibrium justice, where we are in acceptance of our life and everything in it, value. It can why not be financial? A dream turns to reality, Venus and Pisces, romantically. For example, when we stop believing in a certain principle and we free ourselves, the law of attraction, so to speak, or how we attract partners in any kind of partner, even contracts, even the most ridiculous, like the utility contracts. What we attract in our lives changes when our deepest principles guiding relationships change. So this is like a quantum energy as well. If we integrate the divine lesson and reflection and communication ultimately right now into our lives by contemplation, by even philosophizing, why not Jupiter, or alchemizing it in any way, shape, and form, Venus in Pisces, it turns to something valuable and long lasting. May it be an inner value, external value, art, piece of artistic creation, song, poem. The effects of this eclipse can be turned into something, again, I have to highlight, really, really positive. Even if it comes with the cost of stark truth, opening our eyes to something very uncomfortable, trine Pluto. So there is that. And another planet which I would like to speak about, it is not directly linked to the eclipse, but Mercury, on one hand, it is in shadow. It is all the Mercury retrograde topics are being set up. On the other hand, it is very close to Aries, planetoid of discord and rebellion in the sign of Aries. So speaking truth, communication is on fire. Communication is rebellious. Communication is also a field of battle. Why not? In any way, externally, as in, sorry, collectively, I don't need to speak about it because it's so obvious. The internet is like a true battlefield, and the Saturn's influence, banning and uh restricting freedom of speech. You're not allowed to say this and that or speak about this. You're not even allowed to even speak, because if you express any opinion, immediately you're biased to someone else's, or you know what I mean. Very big ideological battles and conflicts here. So this is the theme Mercury, but it's not even retro, it's just in shadow. So it's setting up the themes. So you can imagine how this plays into the symbolism of the endings or relationships changing. This is when the partner says, "Look, we really need to have a long talk." You can imagine that is this energy, that long talk. It can be, in a way, it's self-oriented, Aries, because every partner needs to speak their truth. It's also South Node in Libra, which means it goes against the typical Libra. This is where you cannot be non-confrontational, because how else can you speak your truth? You cannot withdraw. You cannot say as you wish, honey. No. This is where you need to express the self, like it or not. So, as I said, South Node in Libra. The Libra expression needs to be halted to give way to the Aries expression. That's how but if we do this in extreme, well, you can imagine that's bad, because it will wound Mercury close to Chiron. It will wound, it will upset, it will cause fight, it will cause insult. It causes a lot of bad. So we need to be balanced. As we must use every inner muscle for this. It's not going to be easy. How can it be? Mercury under fire and shadow flame. There's some computer games where this darker fire called shadow. That is what's Mercury under on right now, because the shadow needs to speak its mind. Good. Why? The divine wants it to. We cannot suppress it. An eclipse, the darkness. That's why there is eclipse, because the darkness has to say its word. That's the divine order and law, and everyone has to respect it. Even the light has to respect darkness's turn to show its, understand this in a ridiculous symbolism, its opinion, its take on its own truth. So yes, Mercury is gonna be quite under fire. And another, this is a minor astrological energy. It's not something, how should I say, but still important in my opinion. Asteroid Hecate, when there is something going on with the moon, many times other lunar deities, they're not astronomically, neither astrologically the moon itself, but their energy, their power, their influence is part of the lunar sphere. So, for example, asteroid Diana, also lunar deity. Even certain astrological points which are not planet, like Moon Lilith, also lunar energy. White Moon Selena, fictional, also lunar energy. Hecate, lunar energy. So this is really, really important because, as I said, Libra is both the mind and the heart. And when it comes to the heart, Hecate is in the sign of Leo, retrograde. The big lessons of the past for the heart and heart space, especially childhood, adolescence, trining Aries and Mercury. And Mercury himself is preparing to go retrograde in shadow. So this is about wisdom, and the right thing to do sometimes is rooted in childhood or in the saying of the inner child, because do not forget, everything you do in life as an adult, it is meant to keep the inner child happy. And we never ever feel it this way, consider it this way, but think about deeply that job and security, is it for the inner adult who can manage even chaos and uncertainty, or is it really for the inner child to feel safe in life? You know what I mean? So Hecate trining Eris, this will really evoke childhood for a lot of people, and what that childhood has done to you, but it's a trine in the most positive way, the big lessons. That which you would not wish on yourself when you were a child or in the inner child, do not, how should I say, take them as an adult. May that be a seed, an important seed in your value system. What makes the inner child happy, but in a real way? Because Aries in the sign of Aries, the happiness of the inner child will matter so much in your choices and decisions. That can also be very much part of this lunar eclipse in Libra, because Libra is exactly that. And Hecate is the asteroid of fortune telling, divination. The heart knows what the heart feels, or premonition, pre feels, is the best guidance right now. So the truth is in the heart. And also Aries, right? Then the ruler of Aries, Mars, is in Pisces. So very in the spirit, very in the principle, very in the dream, and internalized. This is the moment to work within ourselves. Now, this is basically the majority of the week's energy, because other than the eclipse, there is not all that many com- celestial conversations between the big power players. So another 28th is the next date I want to show you. This is where the moon is in the sign of Scorpio. Oh, sorry. Before that, the 26th, when the moon will conjunct the south node. So that will really amp up the eclipse energies, even if it's after the eclipse, technically. That is the moment when it really, really amps up. So we're really going to be feeling this and seeing it on the world stage. What big international agreement changes forever? And then on the 28th, the moon is in the sign of Scorpio. So we're something, Scorpio is really sinking in deeply the big truths, or the hard to look at facts, trying the eclipse trine Pluto, but the moon trines the Pisces planets, Mars, Saturn, Venus, um, Neptune. So integration, release, understanding, acceptance, healing, the dissolving factor of the Piscean water, the cleaning, it washes it out. We are going deep emotionally, but to get it to the surface, get the true feelings to the surface, for the waters of Pisces to carry them away. Um, and another thing I want to show you is that on the 28th, let me just highlight this for you. So on the 28th, Venus is at 20 degrees of Pisces, which means she perfects a sextile with Uranus in her home sign of Taurus with Uranus, yes. So this is a strong synergy between the two planets, so it's really positive. Good surprises, positive surprises, the influence of the spirit, everything artistic, etc., etc. in the Pisces is highlighted. The spirit does something surprising. It can come as a breath of fresh air, because you can imagine the heaviness of the eclipse will make us feel underwater in a certain way. So a breath of fresh air, a romantic surprise, or you there's a termination or a closure or have something heavily karmic in your life, and your all your attention is diverted to that, and then surprise, surprise, something joyful, something maybe romantic, something pleasurable comes along, a good surprise, or this is where you get the positive side of the eclipse. What does it reflect in your life? Because it can reflect a lot of inner values which you never even looked at before. Now, the sextile somehow diverts your attention to something really valuable within yourself or in your life. So, really positive, even financially. Good karma, for example. Venus, the benefic. In Pisces, the spirit. Faith, belief, dream. What you feel you deserve, you attract it somehow. Uranus in the sign of Taurus. This also represents the magnetism of the Earth's core. And this, we always speak about the stars and the sun and energy and power sources. And very few times do we mention the Earth's core. That is an infinite source of power. And every astrological energy actually converses with the Earth's core. So this is where we are feeling the positivity attraction, for example. So another energy is that the sun in the sign of Aries is holding a trine. So the sun, you see the sun here, with Pallas Athena in the sign of Sagittarius. I really, really love this energy because this is Pallas Athena wisdom, Sagittarius, the highest octaves of wisdom. It guides the sun. It gives a good direction, a tactical, a good plan. This also represents where something is seen outside of religion, because Sagittarius governs religion. When you see another side of something religious, you understand the spiritual logic of it, well, it gives you even greater faith. So this is, I love this energy also because in myth, Pallas Athena always helped heroes, those who were going through challenges. She was like a saving grace, giving them wisdom, guidance, tactics. And this is where it's also the owl. If someone has the owl as spirit animal or start seeing owls, this is where it's Pallas Athena giving you pearls of wisdom or guidance or tactic, the right kind of faith, but also allowing you or anyone, especially the world, to look at the situation outside religiousness. It may still be spiritual theme, but the limitations of religion fall off. And the other thing that I really, really like is that Ceres is, let's say, sextile Saturn, but at the same time, Ceres squares the North Node in the sign of Aries. So the Ceres squaring North Node in Aries, the collective situation with the famine reaches an all-time peak because Ceres is the nurture, food, harvest, grain, Demetra basically. But the sextile with Saturn, there is some kind of solution. There is some kind of action. Because Saturn in the sign of Pisces can also represent the basic compassionate gesture and act. Pisces. So there's that. And now moving on, we get to the 31st, where the 31st Mercury is gonna stand still in the sky because on the 1st of April it will go retrograde. So we are already at the very end of the week, 1 foot into the Mercury retrograde season. I might have a Mercury retrograde special towards the middle of the week if I get the chance. But you can imagine Mercury being emphasized, highlighted, also slightly energetic. In this, it's not at 29 degrees, but it's not far from that. So this is where there's gonna be some powerful, heated words spoken, even angry words, assertive words, verbal battle, etc., etc. So please expect this. Expect to be triggered. But it's not just conflictual. Think before you speak. Aries is the head. Mercury not just being in shadow and standing still in the sky, but also very close to Aries. Be careful what type of communication and words leave your mouth and even your mind. So we need a very strong touch of self. So this Mercury retrograde is gonna begin on the 1st of April and last until the 24th of April and in Aries. So a very heated period. Mercury will reconjunct Chiron. So not a very, fortunately, the North Node is moving away from Mercury because the nodes always move backwards. But Mercury will still get close to the North Node. But that is the wrap up of the Mercury retrograde. It's not even beginning yet. So right now it is just the setup. And also a good news for, how should I say, the situation with Ceres is that Jupiter trines Ceres. So there can be some help and humanitarian assistance that is real and concrete. But again, even though there is not a lot of major aspects happening between the big planets, except if you see Jupiter at the end of the week is already at 17 degree of Taurus. So the distance between it and Uranus is just 3 degrees. So it is getting closer and closer. We are feeling this. It's like the static charge before a big storm. We feel the electricity in the air. We feel the tension building. So even though there is not a lot of action in a big sense happening in the week, it feels like it's action packed fully, karmically, emotionally, principalistically, both individually and the world stage. And there is a lot that's going to happen and play out, especially in the pearl stage. Mercury and Aries, communication. And Aries is a very powerful cardinal sign. Anything relevant in cardinal energy, any cardinal sign means that one way or another it's also on the world, happening in the world, and we see it or we are influenced by it. So yes, I think I'm gonna close this horoscope here. Thank you everyone for listening. Thank you for all the love and support, and wishing everyone a very, very, how should I say, contemplative full moon in the sign of Libra. This is where we cannot change anything because that's the nature of eclipses. But All we can do is really open our eyes, the eyes of the soul, and see what the divine, what the universe, what our own spirit is communicating to us. Where and how is it setting us back on the right path, karmically, on a soul level, especially soul level, and emotionally, partnership wise, because it's in Libra. So thank you everyone for listening. Until next time, bye for now.